We're good.
How's that feel?
It looks good. It's real good. Did you blow some of that hair off my neck and shirt?
We should. Tired of it!
What's up, man?
How you doing, bud?
Got a special delivery for YouTube Barber Academy?
Ah, great.
Do you?
Thanks, man.
All right, bud.
Just what I needed, really. Hell yeah. This thing's got some power. I hope I don't let this new power go to my head.
You gonna make
I
sure?
don't know about you, but I got the Con Air. Highland!
Wanna play rough? What? I'll play rough.
Yeah, I'm gonna start a hurricane in here!
Alright, you guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. I had a lot of fun making it, and for real, Gamma does have a fire blow dryer. I mean, it's really good. I love how simple these are to just turn on and off. There's no gray area here. It's very simple. Literally, you just want it hot, you want it cold. It does have a ton of power, and this cold button, this is one of the coldest blow dryers I've actually ever used. So if you guys use my code Eddie when you go to buy anything from Gamma, you will receive 10% off, and it will also support the YouTube Barber Academy. So I appreciate you guys once again, and yeah, man, let's get into the video. What's up, you guys? Mr. Eddie Barber coming live to you from the YouTube Barber Academy studio, which is actually just a walk-in closet in my house. But yo, today we got an in-depth fading lesson on the hard part with a high skin fade. So I'm gonna show you guys how to deal with both sides of the fade. And without any further ado, let's just get into it. All right, let's jump into it. So we're gonna begin this off. I'm actually starting with the 1 1/2, which is exactly what I would recommend that you start with. So this is the first step. It's very simple to do this because I'm going to tell you this. When you do the 1 1/2, you are going to find that it is about the same width as a comb. So the actual width of the back of this comb means that if I push this right up against somebody's head and I shaved whatever stuck out, I wouldn't be able to make a mistake. So as long as I don't come off of the clipper on accident or make a mistake, I should be able to perform clipper over comb reasonably well. So with these two pushed right up against each other, I know that I could leave it at a 1.5, which means you're sort of at an advantage because now you know that you need to take it from skin to a 1.5, and there is a million ways to do this. So we're going to be getting into that right now, beginning with the trimmer line. Okay, I'm calling it a trimmer line. Obviously you see me using Oster. I'm calling it a trimmer line, but you see me using the Oscar octanes. And when I go through this process, I am simply just trying to remove as much bulk as possible and as fast as possible. And I don't like to use my trimmers to do that, because if you use your trimmers to do that, it's gonna kill your trimmers and they're not gonna make them sharp, fresh lines that we all know that you wanna make that first time around, right? So let's use the right machine for the job, and underneath it, we're gonna take it down to skin. And the way we're going to take it down to skin is, if this was the electric shaver, as I'm coming up, I'm going to begin lifting away, potentially coming down with the grain. But the key here is I do not want to see a line in between my skin and my trimmer. The distance that you're jumping from skin to your trimmer should be very small. So assuming that your trimmer is set up properly, at least zero gapped, or at least cutting close enough, this is actually going to be a very easy step, especially with the Braun Series 9. That clipper, that electric shaver is a beast. It will just remove hair as long as like a number 1. So if you guys are on the fence about buying this machine, you can't afford not to. So I'm just going to jump in here with some clipper over comb, and I'm going to knock out that top, and we are going to actually begin with the open taper. So I'm actually going to spread this step out so you can really see it. All I did was open my clipper and I make a secondary guideline. Now I recommend that you do this all the way around the entire head. Don't only do it on half. I'm only doing it on half because I'm trying to film this and I'm filming myself, and I don't want to have to move this camera around all over the place. So Simple as that. I began with it all the way wide open, and then I'm going to follow these notches on the side if you're using the Andis Masters. If not, just click it down a tiny bit, and we're going to begin keeping it on a slight angle, moving just underneath where we went. So let's say I go no higher than right here, right? And as I bump it down another notch, I'll drop down a little bit more. I'm only going to here, keeping it on an angle, keeping it flat. Okay, one of the areas that I see you guys run into issues more often than not is you're not holding the clipper flat against the head. Now, some of these clippers have a slight bend in the blade. So if you can see, this blade is slightly bent, right? So flat is actually here, it's not here. So as long as you recognize that, you're also gonna notice that some of the guards, same thing. Flat is not here, flat is obviously here. So as long as you recognize that and you utilize that, it's going to help you. Now, the same exact step that I used to create this guideline, I'm going to do the same thing with the open zero guard. So simply putting on my zero guard open and creating that next guideline and begin closing it, staying lower, staying lower, staying lower. So as you can see, this process is pretty much going to be repetitive. There's really no reason for me to keep doing this because I'm just going from skin to trimmer to open taper to close taper to open zero to close zero to one, open to close one. So as you see, all these steps are built on each other and they're built to help you succeed. Now, another problem I've seen a lot of students struggle with is they leave the head way too much. They're just doing this. They've been taught to flick or use the C motion and stuff like that, and there's nothing wrong with using the C motion. I'm not criticizing you for doing that. But if you are a beginner, you really don't even need to use the C motion at all. All you need to do is keep it flat, keep it up against the head, keep the tension, use the head to steady yourself. Don't be going in there and touching it like no little mouse, because the moment you begin to angle this clipper away, you're manipulating the distance that the manufacturer intended for you to set. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you keep the same distance that the manufacturer set for you. That way you'll be able to succeed with this fade and you won't have no problems, and you're gonna be able to get through the process real easy. So on the right side of this head, we're doing this again, exact same thing, beginning with it open. Now, for those of you guys who are a little bit more advanced and you are looking to save some time, and I can't stress this enough, if you're a beginner, please don't do this. It's not necessary. It really doesn't even speed you up all that much, but the C motion can be helpful. So the way that I choose to use the C motion is I sort of like to grip my clipper in this position here, and I use a combination of my wrist, but I also use my fingers to help do it. So we're basically just working the clipper on the side of the head, balancing it on the head, keeping it anchored on the head, and that's helping propel me into these upper steps. So if you actually kind of think about what I'm doing here, it's fairly simple, okay? If I was to take somebody's entire head and shave it with a number 2, right? That would be simple enough. I think all of you guys could do that. But then if I was to come in afterwards with the 1 1/2 open, I would be able to cut into that number 2 without making a line. So if that was a 2 up here and I did a 1.5 open, assuming we're using wall, or a 1 open if you're using Andis, this would not create a line. If I stopped just before I got to the 2, there'd be no line here. What could I take into a 1.5 open that will create no line? You guessed it, a 1.5 closed, all right? And so on and so forth it goes. So if I went 1.5 open, 1.5 closed, the next thing I could do, and this is obviously gonna take you forever. This is why we don't actually fade like this. This would take you way too long. But the truth is, you could do a pretty good haircut and you could come up with a good result doing this. So I understand that some of you guys are just starting out, and some of you guys might not be able to afford barber school. You might not have a great teacher at your barber college. There is an epidemic at the barber colleges. It's very hard to keep a good teacher at a barber college because good barbers go out and make a lot of money, and most schools can't afford to pay them. which is why you should join me on Saturday nights live for the Q&A. Don't miss out on this interactive learning opportunity. It's totally free. I even put a syllabus down in the link in the description, and each lesson that we do, we continue to build from in the following week. So as of right now, when you're watching this video, we should be pretty close to phase 3 of the fade system. But please, yeah, don't miss those lives, man. It's a huge opportunity to actually hang out with a person who's taught for 10 years, and you know, I can help you with a lot of things that you're struggling with. You can ask me questions and I will in fact answer you, and probably there's a good chance that somebody else already asked that question and it has been answered. So you can catch up on those lives. Those videos will all be available. So we're using a little bit of scissor over comb, and we're also going to be using a little bit of texturizing shears. It is just so important that you learn how and when to use these, because it's really going to simplify your blend. So for instance, you could have went in there, charged in there, and eliminated all that hair using your clipper guards. You could have went up to the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, and you could have made an easy mistake too by trying to charge in there with the 1, and then you create a line into a fade that was nearly perfect. So you definitely don't want to make that mistake. You don't want to do anything like that. You want to actually just take your time and go through and know what to leave alone, so that you can come back with those texturizing shears or that shear over comb or even that clipper over comb method. So I'm using my gammas. Anybody who uses gammas, if you choose to buy some, you guys can get 10% off if you use my code. And it also helps to support the channel because I do get a little commission from that. If you want to donate to the channel, because I'm keeping everything I can free, please feel free to shoot me a donation. I use all this stuff to upgrade this studio and upgrade the learning and bring all that I can possibly bring to you guys to make your time here and your learning here a memorable experience, and really try to help you to grow, because it's really all I care about. So anyways, we're moving on to the top of the haircut, and I realized that this view really isn't the best, but we're gonna try to make it work. So I'll try to explain to you what I'm doing. If this was a top view of his hair, I'm going to begin with a mohawk guideline, and I exclude the bang area. I don't really want to cut the bangs, because the bangs are going to be cut separately. We're going to cut those however the client actually wants to cut them. But as of right now, we'll cut this mohawk guideline, and it's going to become a stationary guideline. Then when you hold up the hair, we're going to work this small section down beside it. So when you hold up the hair, you should see something like this: your guide and some of the hair that you're working on cutting. So when I hold this in this section, that's basically what I'm going to see: my stationary guideline, and I'm just going to cut it off. I'm going to continue doing that along this section all the way, not trying to travel too far down the head, okay? I'm going to travel slightly off my guide, and I'm going to do it again. On this other side, I'm going to do the same thing. And we are going to continue moving across the head in this section. And of course, if you chose to cut this hair in the same way that I did, where I used both the stationary and a traveling guideline, you're not going to have a ton of texture in there. You're not going to have to do a whole bunch of manipulating, but we're going to go back through, hold it vertically to check it. So if you cut it vertically, check it horizontally. If you cut it horizontally, check it vertically. But it is not always necessary to even point cut either, because you can always add your texturizing in later with a notching shears. You can do it with point cutting, slithering, slicing, efflorating. There's a million ways to texturize. You can texturize with a razor. However, a lot of people try to point cut and they try to get fancy and they wind up cutting their fingers. And really, I'll be the first one to say it, and there's probably people who will want to fight me for it. You don't really need to point cut. You can get by without it. Everybody can still be happy. You can still give great work, give a great haircut to somebody, and they're still gonna love it, and they're gonna come back to it, because you know what? In the end, it's not really about your haircuts. It really isn't. It's about how you made that client feel. Okay, you guys, if you learned something, give me that thumbs up, hit that bell, don't miss those lives. This is the YouTube Barber Academy. I am Mr. Eddie Barber, and I want to thank you guys for stopping into my studio and checking out this video, and I'll be back with another one shortly. Peace.